Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. We're continuing our powder coating oven build. So what we'll be working on today is doing the cross members for the outer panels. They're already marked up, so we'll get them cut and installed. We'll also be getting ready for our control panel, which will be on this side, on the right side of the oven. We'll put some cross members in there to hold the control panel. We had a couple of questions last week in regards to what we're actually using for the interior. Now the I'm flipping on my own tongue again. But the interior is actually 16 gauge hot rolled sheet metal. They're all tacked in there. We still have to do the interior weld, and that we'll do off camera because that'll take some time. But we'll get the cross beams in. We're also going to be putting a couple of pieces of angle iron here to support our hinges for the door. So we'll get that all done, and then before we actually start building the door, we'll actually do all the wiring, install the heat elements, and then of course we'll build the control panel, and I'll do a video on all of that for you guys. Thanks. Stay tuned. So as you can see, we installed the mounting brackets here for our control panel, and also the side braces for the outside. And we did that all the way around, okay? Someone was asking me what I'm actually using. I'm actually using a T-bar. I find that it holds quite nicely. They're primed, and they're a little bit of a pain because you have to grind up the primer, but they work really, really well, as you can see that. So the outside of this thing is ready to rock and roll for some sheeting, but before we get to that, we'll have to do all the wiring and so forth. The wiring will be a high temp wire with a fiberglass shielding, and actually I'll video that and show you how that's all going to come out. On the table there you'll see our control box. We will be adding to that for the controller and wire holder and so forth. But that's what she looks like right now. So we're getting ready right now to get the control panel set up. We've got everything here what we need for the control panel. So we've got some toggle switches. Those are 30 amperes at 240. We've got one that's a 15 ampere at 240 that we're going to use for the light. Those will control the burners. These are solid state relays. They are 40 amperes each. You can use one if you're using a 3 burner oven. This is going to be a 4 burner oven. What we're going to do with this is we're going to have control over the burners, so you'll be able to run it at 2 burner, 3 burner, or 4 burner. We'll have a fan installed in the actual control panel to keep these solid state relays cool. This is a power pack or power divider. We'll take out some sleeves in between and we'll label them for the 220. These are grommets that we'll use, and we'll start putting this thing together. What we did here, let me just, sorry to make you dizzy a little bit. What we did here is we put a brace across. So what we're going to do is we're going to line up that control panel and drill some holes through it, and we'll tap it so we can actually mount it, and then we'll line everything up. And what I'll do is I'll show you when I line everything up in the actual control panel box before we actually start cutting and installing the pieces into it. Okay, so keep you posted. Okay guys, so we've got them tapped in. You might be wondering why we're using longer screws. What's going to happen is once the outer sheeting is put on, of course the insulation and the sealant and everything, what we're going to do is we're going to put spacers behind the control panel so it sits away from the outer sheet. We'll show you that a little later on. but that's ready to rock and roll. So let's line her up and let's see what it looks like, and then we'll start mounting stuff in the actual control panel. Okay, so here's the control panel. So as you can see, when I put the lid on this control panel, it's perfectly flush, and there's a couple of screws that mount that plate to it. The issue that you're going to have is that you have to line this thing up. So because of this gap, we're going to mark the outside so we know where we got to stay away from the edge. We'll do that now, and then we'll start lining up the fan and the switches, and then we'll mount the interior. Okay, so I've got it all lined up, or lined out. What we want to do is you always want to kind of draw it all out and make sure that everything's going to kind of fit properly and everything is going to clear. So as you can see, I kind of labeled it. We've got our light, we've got burner 1 and 2, we've got burner 3 and burner 4, and you'll have control. So you can actually control all the burners. 1 and 2 will be on. As soon as you switch it on, it stays on. And then you can use burner 3 and 4, depending on the amperage that you're going to have on your outlet at your shop. But there we go. And then what we did is we just placed the solid relays in the unit to make sure everything clears. So what'll happen is the solid relay will be there. Our power assembly will be here. We'll have a hole here for the wiring to enter into the unit, and then we'll have our power coming through here, and then grounded, of course. Okay, so that'll be all lined up. And we should have enough clearance for that other screw. So we might have to move that one just a touch, and it should be right there. Yeah, so we'll have enough clearance. Well, that's great. So we've got the complete weld done now on the inside and the interior liner. We'll clean up some of those welds. She's completely welded. We also gone ahead and installed the control panel. So this is just a mock-up. We'll have to take it all apart and paint it. The wiring still has not been installed yet. Slide the panel off. I'll show you the interior. Okay, so we have our power bar, our 2 solid state relays, and we got our grommet coming in from the oven into the actual control panel and then out to our wall. There will be another adjacent control panel with the controller, temperature controller, most likely on the left side. That'll be installed shortly, but that goes on there. On there. There we go. Okay, so you've got your light, your burner 1 and 2, burner 3, and then burner 4. Is we're going to add to this controller. So this is the actual controller that does the temperature. So what we're going to do is we're going to build an extra controller box for this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go through here. We're going to mount it to the side and then actually use this grommet to run the wiring, okay, right through that. I'm going to line up some sheet metal, and we'll get a box made for this, and that should work out great. So we got it all lined up here. So we did, basically what we're going to do is we're going to do the folds. Because it's slightly heavier gauged sheet metal, what we're going to do is I'm going to score it with the blade, just to make it a little easier to bend. And then we'll tack with one end, and then we'll make the top plate and bottom plate. And let's get that scored up, and then I'll get it bent, and then I'll show you. So what we're going to do is we're just going to trace this onto this piece of scrap, and then we'll just make sure it's squared up once I take it off. I'll move that over, that's still kind of warm. I'll take my square and we'll do just double check my measurement, make sure, and we'll score that. This one here, let's extend it a bit. And we're going to go off of this side. Yeah, we're pretty good. There we go. So I'll cut on the line. This way I have a little bit of a bevel in order to weld into. And then when I polish that, that'll give me my corner. It's looking pretty good. Now this free edge cut here that I have is not perfect, but we'll fix that once I've got the back end welded in. And make sure that's nice and flat. We'll cut that now and then get ready to weld that on there. Okay guys, so we've gone ahead and tacked that, okay, or welded it. We'll continuous weld all the way around, just letting the piece cool off, and we'll clean it up, and then we'll get ready to put some plates in the front. We'll get a plate ready, and that should work out beautifully. Let's clean it up, give it a minute or so to cool off. We'll clean her up and then get ready for the front plate. But she's looking pretty good and pretty square, so that's awesome. Cool off, and then we'll grind that out. What we're going to end up doing here is we're going to cut this out with a little bit of a lip. And we're going to make another plate, and we'll do 4 screws with some tappers, so we can take the plate on and off, and then we'll install the controller on that plate. So this way it's stationary and we don't have to worry. Okay. Once we get the other control panel off, I will cut the side and mount it to the other control panel, and that should be ready to go. And we'll have that all buttoned up. Okay, so there's the setup. There's the controller. And we mounted it. I just etch primed the actual front panel for now. We'll have to take it apart and paint the whole thing, but she's in. It's looking good. Okay guys, so we've got the heat elements here. Now as you can see, I got a piece of sheet metal here, and I've scored it, or marked it I should say. What we're going to do is we're going to make casements to actually house these heat elements. We've lined up 2 of the heat elements here. Now of course they're not going to be on the ground, they'll be on the back wall. Now what will happen is the ones on the back wall will be slightly higher and ones on the outer wall will be lower. What we're going to do is we're going to try to get the heat distributed evenly through the actual oven, also without taking up too much space. Now we could do a casement for the elements right across the oven, but what we'll do is it'll remove a little bit of back wall space. If we have something that's a little longer and we need to get it in between the elements, we can do so. The elements will be further away from the corner because we don't want to take the dimension from corner to corner. If there's a larger sign or a body panel from a car or a truck, in that sense. So what we're going to do is we're going to line this one up what I'll do is I'll score it, bend it, and I'll show you how it looks once it's bent, okay? And then we'll take it from there. Okay, so we cut this one out. So before I actually start and scored it, before we actually start to bend, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark up another one right off of this, so a mirror image onto the next piece. This way I have it all ready to go. Then what we'll do is we'll get this one bent up, make sure it's a good fit, and then move on from there. Okay, so there it is. As you can see, we made all the bends. The seams will be welded and grinded out. The tabs I'm going to leave on there for now. It just makes life a little easier. We'll round off the corners, right, and clean that up and make it look good. And then the bottom, we'll put a plate and weld it. And that should do it. You know, that should hold that real well. And let me move over here. So here's one of my elements. And there it goes. Okay, and that gives us plenty of room underneath for wiring, and we're good to go. Now, I could put a tab here and make a plate at the bottom, but it's not really necessary, because what will happen is once we screw the element in, we'll hook up the wiring. These are screwed in to the element, and then of course we'll have to heat shield it, and then that's all we'll need. And these will be stationary. I won't weld them in. I am going to self-tap them in to the back of the oven, just in case there's ever a reason that we want to change an element or style of element, that it can still be done, okay? Also for the top, the extra meat that's on the lip, we'll leave it there. This way, if the element has a different mounting system, it can be installed at a later date. So we'll need to replicate that 4 times. Okay, so you can actually see that we've got all 4 of them done. They're all bent, ready to go. We still have to weld them. So we'll do a weld here on the other side. And then of course we're gonna do a back plate here. And that'll be welded on. And then we'll have 2 holes here on each side, and that'll be mounted to the back of the oven. All 4 are done. So let's cut the back plates out. Then what we'll do is we'll weld them up, clean these up, and get them ready to install the elements. Okay guys, so brackets are all made, complete, welded, as you can see. We got 4 of them, welded all the way around, and they'll mount like that. We're all ready to go. It's awesome. So let me, gonna walk over to the oven. I'll show you how they look on the back wall. Okay, so there's the oven. And of course, they'll mount just like that. Okay, and then of course the coil will be on the top. Okay, and then the hole will be in behind, and this will be insulated. Okay, and the wire itself will have fiberglass shielding. Okay, and then on the actual coil, that up there, that's what it'll look like on the coil. Okay, so next step is to get these coils installed, and then we'll move on to wiring. There's actually one more coil, so this is a 4-coil oven. So we'll have 2 coils here, and 1 coil here, and 1 coil here, away from the corner again, right? Just to save the corner space, okay? And enough space in between the 2 coils that we can get something large going inward towards the back wall. And then the top, we have to still get our light in and our temperature controller. Okay guys, so we've got the oven on the side. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna get ready to do some wiring. So run some wiring and some heat shield. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do some drilling, and we're gonna run the wiring from the elements to the underneath of the oven and up the other side to the heat element within this channel here. Okay, you'll find that running the wiring from underneath will keep things cooler. Okay guys, so you can see that we've run the wiring and the heat shield for the elements or burners. We've run out of wiring and we've run out of heat shield, so we're gonna have to stop here. But we've got quite a bit of it done. As you can see, we've run it right up to the control panel. The heat shields are not long enough, so we'll have to extend them. We still have one run to do here, okay? And that's for the back burner there. So we'll need to get that done. We'll need some extra heat shield for the top also. I've got some heat shield. I got a little piece here. I can show you what it actually looks like. I don't know if that can focus. Okay, and that's a fiberglass heat shield. Must have when you're building one of these. The wiring is actually 10 gauge high temp. It's 200 Celsius. By adding the heat shield, you're gonna get about 30 to 40% more temp out of that wire. So that's gonna make life a little easier, a little safer. If you notice, this is the bottom of the oven. So we're running most of the wiring at the lower panel, away from the actual burners. We're also leaving extra play in these wires so we can actually do our insulation underneath and keep the wiring away from the bottom plate. We also will have to caulk or high temp silicone all the seals at the bottom. We'll do that once we've got all the wiring kind of done underneath. Then the next time I guess we'll flip this back over and install the burners. The next time I flip this back down on its side like this, we'll do the insulation underneath and the back bottom plate. And that'll be the end of flipping this on its side. The top, we still, of course, still have to install the light and actual, what are we looking at here? The heat probe, and that'll be installed shortly. I think I'm gonna call an end to this video. They're getting a little long, but we will continue and go on to the next step. Guys, I really appreciate the support. Thank you for watching. Keep tuned. Or I should say, stay tuned.